Hi everyone. Thank you for watching. So today is going to be a carnivore update. It's a follow-up video to my previous post about why I stopped beef only. So it has been 3 weeks since I stopped beef only, and I would like to share how I reintroduced other types of meat, the reaction that I got. And it will probably help you if you are in a similar journey. You are thinking of wanting to incorporate some other meats that would benefit your microbiome, give you a bit of variety, but of course not triggering you in any way while you're doing a carnivore diet. If you haven't watched my video on why I stopped beef only, please check it out. I will link it down in the description box below because I think then this video will make more sense to you. It has been 3 weeks, so over that span I have tried different types of meat and seeing how I feel or perform with it. So one itself, obviously my goal is to try to get back to where I was doing carnivore, where I had a bit of seafood, a little bit of poultry, a little bit of lamb, different types of meat that would give me a little bit more variety. And I believe that with more variety, it will add on to the quality of my life. And I think someone did mention to me, creative people tends to really require variety in order for their life to be interesting. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I never really thought about it, but now that I thought it through, carnivore diet is pretty restrictive depending who you are, what's your personality. It can be pretty restrictive, obviously, because you only narrow down to animal foods, right? If you're someone doing dairy, you have butter on top of the meat that you're eating, different kinds of meat. I think carnivore diet, it's not boring, it's not restrictive at all. But if you're doing beef only, it can be pretty restrictive. It is a very strict form of elimination diet, but there are benefits to it. There are times where you would want to use it depending on where you're at and what is your goal. So in my case, my life, it revolves around being very active, not just mentally, physically. I realized that doing beef only, I tend to overlook eating as much as I have to during those days when I'm active. So my body kind of lashed it out on me by feeling a little bit more fatigued, and obviously having a little bit of hair loss from there. It's because the body, it's telling me that it needs something else. So things has worked out very well for me in the beginning of carnivore, because that's when I really incorporated different kinds of animal food, and your social surrounding becomes less restrictive because you are able to really go to a place without having to think about, oh, do they serve steak only or beef. So let's start with week number 1, what I introduced and my thinking process behind this whole reintroduction journey, right? So in my first week, I still want to play it safe because obviously you don't want to shock your body. I always believe in this kind of experiment where you are trying to bring in other elements after singling it out for a while. You might want to take a baby step so that you're able to identify areas that triggers you easily without having to suspect that, oh, it could be this, it could be that. So we're trying to eliminate many possible factors that will influence it. So doing it step by step, I think it's going to be more beneficial. So my first week, I didn't do anything that is out of the ruminant animal category. So ruminant animal means it has a digestion system. I think it's called ruminant, right? If I'm not mistaken. It's able to take or convert all the nutrients in plant food into bioavailable nutrients for us in forms of protein, right? So, which is why ruminant animal is considered the safest, the holy grail for a lot of carnivores. Because if you come from a background of having a lot of histamine issues, you have a lot of allergies and autoimmune, ruminant animal as your base or your only meat source, it's really one of the most effective ways to heal, and it has done wonders for not just myself but many of the people I know in the community. So naturally, the second kind of meat that I will introduce, it's part of the ruminant animal family, which is lamb. Now, since I was really young, I have always loved the taste of lamb. I know it's very gamey, and I know a lot of people can't tolerate it, but lamb, if you really research about it, no matter where it's from, it would be dominantly grass-fed. You don't have to worry about, some people are very particular. I cannot do grain fed, I need to do grass fed. Lamb is always like a fail safe choice to go for. And I noticed that if you try to go for the fattier cuts of lamb, the gaminess is a lot less than when it's leaner. So naturally, I prefer cuts like lamb rack or lamb rib. I'll insert the picture somewhere. So on some days I would do more lamb than beef, but I would say dominantly I'm still beef, mostly beef on my plate for a meal. I would still do my sirloin, I'll still do my ribeye, and that is always a staple for me. It has worked out so well for me for 2.5 years. There's no reason for me to cut down on that. But I think adding different profiles from different cuts of meat would only make it even more nutritious. I think that's what I'm going for right now. So lamb from ruminant, the family, would be a very good or safe choice to consider incorporating if you want to start reintroducing different cuts of meat. So the another benefit about this lamb rib or lamb rack is because when it's untrimmed, which is very easy for me to find here in Singapore, it's very fatty. It's almost 80%, 70% fat, and it's very lean protein. And it pairs together very well with the leaner cuts of beef that I get. I don't intentionally get leaner cuts of beef, but the butchers that I go to, their sirloin, their ribeye, because it's 100% grass fed, it's already pretty lean. It's a lot harder for me to get beef fats like the marble fats, the marble steak. It's a lot harder to find it here. I will need to go all the way to get my butcher to send me their frozen beef suet, which they normally sell it like wholesale, which is a big chunk of it, and it takes up the entire space of my freezer. Not very practical, so which is why I like to get lamb. It's a lot fattier. Even ground lamb, like your minced lamb, right? When you turn it into a patty, it tastes a lot fattier, and you feel a lot more satiated for sure. But I would say that I'm still leaning towards the higher protein, but I would say right now there are more days that I'm doing 1-to-1 ratio, so protein to fat ratio is almost balanced, because I'm not trying to lean out. I'm just trying to maintain my body composition at the moment. If you guys want to know more about this body composition, the ratio of it, let me know. I would try to do a video about this next time. Yeah. And then the second week, I have my notes there. The second week, I would introduce seafood. So when things settle down in week 1, second week, I actually introduce seafood. So the logic behind how I introduce this is I'm really seeing the level of histamine, the level of the quality of the meat, right? Because normally lamb and beef, right, you can get higher quality easier where I'm from. But seafood here is a lot more difficult. Like wild caught salmon is super expensive, and I don't know many places that sell it and that tastes really good. So wild caught salmon, it's pretty uh, inaccessible. And then of course you have poultry, you have pork, but those things are higher in terms of, like, if you don't get the high quality ones, you might have some kind of issues with it. So I'll talk more about it later on, how I introduce that. But second week I did more of seafood. So I did a lot of sardine, canned sardine. So if you know, anything that's canned, it has higher histamine. I remembered before I truly healed my gut in my first year of carnivore, I did quite a lot of seafood as well, without realizing about this whole histamine issue, right? So I was still doing carnivore and I would still get like rashes, itchiness, but a lot milder than when I was in keto, obviously. I still couldn't figure out at that point of time what was it. And then when I cut out canned food, leftover steak, things that is being left out for a while, it tends to have higher histamine, and it can trigger certain autoimmune responses, and especially if you are someone that get hives or itchiness easily. I am that person. So I realized that I can do canned sardines a lot better now. I have no itchiness, and even if I try to do sashimi or salmon that is not wild caught, I don't get the same reaction that I used to have before. And I must say, I suspect that it's really the beef only for that 3 months really helped to reset my gut. Something to think about. Yeah. So I did more seafood in second week, and another reason why I would like to highlight to always include seafood, some form of it, it's because there is iodine in it. It is higher iodine compared to red meat. You need iodine for energy production. You need it for your you need it for your metabolism. You need it for your thyroid health. So iodine, I believe, is harder to get if you are just doing beef only. So I'm planning to incorporate more shellfish in the next few weeks. So I will report back to see how I feel about that. Yeah, so and then the third week, which is the recent one, I started trying a little bit of poultry, so chicken, but I'm never really a fan of chicken breast. It's just too lean for my personal liking. I've never felt satisfied eating lean chicken breast. I've always geared towards chicken thighs, drumsticks, chicken wings, maybe because it's fattier. And yeah, if you want to do carnivore, you still do need your energy from somewhere. Obviously not from carbs. You would need energy from fats. So doing fattier cuts of chicken, it's fine, but I need to go for the free range, not just going to the supermarket and getting those kind of chicken that has hormones or antibiotics injected in them. I am still very particular on where I source my meat from. It has to be free range. Even pork itself, I've always loved pork belly. That's the only pork that I ever eat. I don't really go for other cuts, really. Not interested. Tried it, never liked it. So I'm so glad that the farmer down at my place, they do oven bake. Was it oven bake or roasted? Like pork belly. They do it the way I want it to, and I told them that I'm carnivore and I don't need any other condiments and marination. They just do it plain for me, and that's perfect. So I've had it in the last week. Even recently, it's been fine. I don't have any reaction that I used to have, like headache, itchiness. That is something that I typically get when I don't do mostly ruminant. Yeah, so and then finally, this is something that I'm very happy to share, because if you guys followed through my journey and watched my video on why I went into carnivore, is that when I was in keto, I was doing eggs all the time. And I've always been the person that loved eggs. You know, I can do scrambled eggs, I can do all kinds of eggs. Eggs is really my staple. And then after I did my final course of Accutane, which is many years back, I think I finally ruined my gut in a large extent, that suddenly at that point I couldn't tolerate eggs. So I started eczema flare-ups, you know, and my entire body. um so I had to cut out eggs, and the moment I cut out eggs, my eczema healed without medication. I knew that it was from the eggs. So when I went carnivore 2 years ago, tried to introduce eggs, high quality, non-GMO, very expensive eggs, right? I would do egg yolks only. If I try to do it for more than 3 days, I would have like the itchiness at this area and sometimes on my neck. My body is kind of like trying to warn me, hey, you are doing too much eggs right now. So yeah, it's never worked for me, and it's pretty sad because I've always loved eggs. It's one of my favorite food, and I couldn't deal with it when I was carnivore. But I must say, I have been doing eggs pretty regularly in the past few days, and I don't have the same reaction that I did before. That is very interesting. Now, let me share with you what I think has contributed to that. First things first is I went on a strict elimination diet, which is doing beef only for 3 months, right? Prior to this reintroduction. That has probably helped to heal or reset my gut, right? But another thing that it's really, I think it's the main contributing factor. I have included probiotic to what I eat now. Even when I was doing beef only, it's this Megaspore. It's from Nutrition with Judy. I was interested to try it at the beginning of the year because, you know, I knew that my gut is still not 100% perfect, even though, you know, I have healed many of the issues that I had pre-carnivore. I know that I'm always in search of something that would make me feel even more optimum. I've always kept myself updated, you know, with the community on people's similar experiments and journey. And then I stumbled across a carnivore yogi. She mentioned how probiotic has helped her with better sleep, better mood, better energy. So I was like, you know what? I never really tried probiotic, and I knew that from taking Accutane in the past and antibiotics, I have my gut, it's not the best for sure, right? So I was like, why not? Let's try the probiotic. So I did it at the same time, not really the same time. I think around the first month only. I did it only for a short burst of probiotic. I did it for about a month-ish. So I took probiotic during my first month of beef only. Didn't have any reaction. My digestion is perfect, really. And I think that helped to really kick things in and, you know, really healed my gut during my 3 months of beef only. So beef only plus probiotic, maybe it accelerated and really just flourished and healed my gut in that sense, that now with me eating some chicken, eggs that I used to not tolerate, and then seafood, especially canned sardine that is higher in histamine, I don't have the kind of reactions that I have before. So I must say that there is a benefit to doing beef only. There is definitely a benefit to taking probiotics even when you're on carnivore. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that whatever I've shared with you, my strategy over these 3 weeks, will be somewhat beneficial to you. If you are in a similar situation right now and you need some form of assurance or some guidance or tips on how to reintroduce it, and let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, please like and share the video. It will really help me out, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.